Welcome to the BioPharma Business Intelligence Unit, where symbolic integrity meets strategic clarity. At BBIU, we go beyond the headlines to decode the structural forces behind global biopharma, AI, and economic realignment. If you value precision, verification, and symbolic depth, this channel is for you. Subscribe now to access our weekly briefings, dossiers, and intelligence reports, and consider joining our institutional tier to unlock early warning systems, custom metrics, and exclusive strategic insight. You're not just listening, you're entering the future of epistemic intelligence. www.BioPharmaBusinessIntelligenceUnit.com.
BBIU-Edu, From Wellness Vision to Business Intelligence, Lessons from a 2007 Health Resort Project. Octa 1st, Executive Summary. Between 2006 and 2008, I found myself in two important entrepreneurship competitions in Argentina: Desafío Joven, sponsored by Shell and AZE, and the Naves Business Competition at IAE Business School. I entered with a project that, for the time, was unusually ambitious: the creation of a health resort that combined Oriental and Western medicine, where architecture, medical practice, and lifestyle change were not separate offerings, but part of one integrated experience. The pricing itself reflected the ambition. A 2-week stay would cost between USD 5,000 and 7,000, levels comparable to European luxury wellness centers like Evian or Lanzerhof, not to local Argentine spas that operated in the USD 500 to 500 range. The idea was to compete globally, not locally. The resort never materialized, but the process of building the project, defending it in competitions, and later re-examining it became a turning point in how I see business and leadership. It shaped the way I performed inside corporations and ultimately laid the intellectual foundation for the structural thinking that defines BBIU today. One historical context, 2006 to 2008. In the mid-2000s, Argentina's entrepreneurial ecosystem was only starting to take form. Competitions like Desafío Joven, 2006, played a pioneering role. They pushed young people to put their ideas into business plan format, pairing them with mentors and giving them visibility. For me, it was the first step where the health resort stopped being just an idea on paper and became something that had to withstand scrutiny. The following year, the same project entered Naves IAE, 2007, the most respected academic entrepreneurship program in the country. Naves was not about inspiration, but about rigor. Business models, financial projections, legal frameworks, and structured feedback from experts. It was there that I had to defend why a USD 2 million capex project for a wellness center could be credible in Argentina. Looking back, the challenge was not the vision itself. The world was already moving toward wellness resorts in Europe, but the ecosystem's immaturity in Argentina. There were no specialized investors, little market readiness, and low cultural acceptance for spending thousands of dollars on integrative health. Lesson: timing is never only about the market. It is also about whether the ecosystem around you is ready to support what you are building. 2. Global benchmarks. The health resort was benchmarked not against Argentine competitors, but against international leaders. That was deliberate. By setting packages at USD 5,000, 7,000 for 2 weeks, the project was saying, "We are not another spa. We are playing in the same league as Evian, Lanzerhof, and what would soon become HA Wellness in Spain." This was both a strength and a risk. It gave the project clarity of identity, but it also meant that Argentina, a country not yet positioned as a luxury medical tourism hub, had to attract international clients without having the infrastructure or branding to do so. Lesson: bold pricing strategies can be defended if you use global benchmarks, but they only work if you actually have access to international demand. 3. The solitude of leadership. The competitions were invaluable for teaching me marketing, accounting, and legal structures. But the deeper lesson was not technical, it was human. I learned that leadership is solitary. I presented the project alone, not because I wanted to, but because no one around me wanted to commit at that level. Most people were comfortable with stability, being employees, receiving a salary, avoiding risk. Carrying the entire responsibility meant every decision and every potential failure fell on me. This solitude is not unique to entrepreneurship. It is the same paradox I later saw inside corporations. Leaders want teams who act like owners, but the structure of incentives often pushes managers to protect themselves rather than the company. True ownership mindset is rare, and when it appears, it can even disturb existing hierarchies. Lesson: solitude is not accidental, it is intrinsic to leadership. Learning to accept this early prepares you for the weight of ultimate responsibility. Number 4. Continuity into BBIU. The health resort was never built, but it was not a dead end. It was a prototype of symbolic structural thinking that would later reappear in different form. In 2007, my aim was to integrate body, mind, and spirit into a single environment. Today, BBIU integrates data, symbols, and strategy into structural intelligence. The thread is the same. Take elements that usually exist apart and weave them into a coherent system. Back then, the system was wellness. Today, it is business intelligence. Lesson: early ventures, even when unfinished, can serve as laboratories for the frameworks you later use at a higher level. 5. The irreversible shift between 2006 and 2008. Something in me changed permanently. Once you learn to think in systems, you cannot go back to a narrower way of seeing. That shift had two direct consequences. Inside corporations, it made me consistently outperform because I could see inefficiencies and structural gaps that others overlooked. At the same time, it exposed me to frustration because I also saw the limits of leadership above me. Short-term thinking, defensive decisions, and what I can only call poverty of perspective. The paradox of transformation is that it produces both excellence and tension. Structural vision gives you the tools to perform better, but it also makes you more aware of contradictions in the systems you work within. Lesson: transformative learning is irreversible. It equips you to perform at a higher level, but also to see limitations more clearly, sometimes more clearly than organizations want to acknowledge. Practical takeaways for entrepreneurs: start small, but expose your idea. Competitions are not only about winning, they force you to structure and defend your concept. Benchmark globally. Don't trap your vision within local constraints. Measure it against international standards. Accept solitude. Leadership often means carrying ultimate responsibility without the comfort of shared risk. Invest in weaknesses. After NAVES, I deliberately studied strategy at IAE in 2008 and discovered Peter Senga's The Fifth Discipline. That book reshaped my way of thinking in systems. See failures as laboratories. A project that doesn't materialize can still provide the intellectual DNA for what you will build later. Conclusion: the health resort project was bold, even audacious, for Argentina in 2007. It was not executed, but it left something far more important than a building. It created an irreversible shift in perspective. It taught me that ideas can be ahead of their ecosystem, that solitude is part of leadership, and that structural vision can transform both performance and frustration. Nearly 20 years later, the legacy of that project is alive, not as a resort in Buenos Aires, but as the structural intelligence frameworks of BBIU. For entrepreneurs and executives today, the message is simple. Projects may fail, but learning is irreversible. What you build in one era becomes the foundation for the next. You've reached the end of the open section of this BBIU content. The complete analysis, with full data, structural frameworks, and extended annexes, is available exclusively to our subscribers. At BBIU, we believe the real value lies beyond headlines, in the depth of structural intelligence that helps leaders and organizations see further. If you want access to the complete archive and future reports, join us at BBIU and take part in the next level of analysis.